What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Today I'm here with a few book reviews, a little what I've been reading lately. I have 3 physical books and then 2 books that I want to talk about I read on my Kindle. I'll just start with the ebooks to start off. The first book that I read on my Kindle was Toni at Random by Dana A. Williams. This was such a good book. It was recently published and I'm so glad that I got the chance to read it. I think overall, like what I got, an overwhelming sense of like this being an ode to Toni Morrison. It talked about her leadership, her editorship, her as a writer, a teacher, a mentor, a legendary person, a visionary, really pushing the publishing industry standards, really challenging like Western ideals and the status quo in publishing, really bringing like really pushing and bringing Black stories into publishing and asking more of the Black readers, asking more of publishing in general, and decentering the white gaze. You got to see like how Toni Morrison became the woman that we grew to know as a writer and an editor. Her childhood, how she always had like a had like a real interest in the creative arts and music and theater, and really just got to see like how she became who she became. You know, it was pretty interesting. You got a little bit of her personal life, like her being married, divorced, her kids, and then like the dynamic with her parents. But a lot of it was really about like what she did, her impact. You know what I mean? Like how she inspired people and challenged them at the same time. This book reminded me of, there are some people that make it to high places and just them being there is enough. Like, I'm not saying it's not. Just them being there is enough. But then you got this other group of people that they're not satisfied with just making it like to this high place. They gonna make it. You gonna make it. These other people gonna make it. They're opening doors. They're making space. Okay, they bringing people with them. And that's what Miss Toni Morrison did. So I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about her editorship, her style, her vision that she had for the people that she was actually like mentoring and helping at the time. Some relationships she had. It was a good book. I can't lie. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I knew I wanted to read it when it came out, but it took me a while to get around. Not a while, but it took me longer than I wanted to get around to it. But I'm excited that I did. I actually liked the way that Dana A. Williams told the story. I like how she kind of crafted it. I liked like the lens that it was told from. It kind of opens up with a really good sense of like Toni Morrison's personality, like her as a person when it talks about like her address to a group and like the duality of her. So I really enjoyed it. I like to see the writer Toni Morrison and the editor Toni Morrison and how they kind of meshed together. That was pretty cool. So yeah, that's the first book. If you're interested in that book and you haven't read it, definitely check it out, y'all. Definitely. Next, on my Kindle, I read The Book Eaters. I actually have that physical book. I got it for $1. I have the actual book, but I ended up reading it on my Kindle because I started on a whim. Like, I didn't plan on reading that this month. I was at like a baseball game for my kid, and I was just going through my Kindle library. And I was like, I'm going to read this book. It seems interesting. Like, think about like what this book is about. It's about people who literally eat books for sustenance. Like, that sounds cool. And that's what I did. I read the book. I enjoyed it. There were some small parts about the book that kind of frustrated me. So let me back up. There's a secret society of people who eat books for sustenance. Okay? They consume books. And when they eat them, they don't only get fed. They also can retain the information that they consume. So you know how like you are what you eat. That's pretty much what that is. But then there's a smaller subset of those people who are actually mind eaters. They don't eat books, they eat people's minds, and they do the same thing. They can consume what that person knows, take on that person's personality traits, all of the stuff that's in their brain. They kind of eat that for substance. So you got the main character who, she's a book eater, comes from a long line of book eaters, but she has a son and he's a mind eater. Okay, talks about that. I think what shocked me about this book, I thought it was going to be super like into this world of book eating and mind eating, and like, and don't get me wrong, it is. It's like dragons and it's all kind of stuff. It is that element, but a lot of it is focused on like motherhood. It's focused on the patriarchy. It's focused on like stuff like that. It reminds me of like The Handmaid's Tale, but sprinkle in like book eating and make it be set in present day. That's what it seemed like to me. I actually wish it wasn't set in present day, but that's neither here nor there. I do wish it was more focused on the book eating part, just because that's kind of the draw that like brought me in, and I feel like a lot of people could say like that's what brought them in, but instead it focused a lot more on motherhood and escaping this, like, again, think like Handmaid's Tales, which is not bad. It's just not what I was expecting. Like, you have this cult, essentially, like this underground network. They're hiding in plain sight, but they're like a cult. And she, you know, you're trying to get away from it, but think about reproductive rights and think about the patriarchy and think about gender roles and how people are like oppressed and that type of thing. That's heavy on what this book is about. Good, just not what I was like going in thinking I was gonna get this like super, you know, super fantasy type book. And after I finished the book, I actually looked up. I said, like, what genre is this? Because I thought I was reading like fantasy, and it seems like it's a blend of a lot of genres. It had a lot going on, and that's why I wasn't like totally like what I thought it was gonna be. That's what happened when you go in semi-blind. Sometimes you end up with a book you didn't think you was reading. But anyways, I still liked it. I thought it was good. It's just, I thought I was going to get a lot going on. There is some interesting things in here though. Like, yeah, I wanted a little bit more from the two main characters. But other than that, like, they had some interesting stuff going on in this book. Yeah. Okay. Then I have 3 books that I read physically. Oh, where should I start? Let's start with this. Nowhere is a Place by Bernice L. McFadden. Y'all, Bernice L. McFadden, you can write. You can tell a story. You can tell a story. You can write. You can get us where we need to go. This was good. Okay. Let me say, this is a heavy book. It's got heavy themes, and it's some stuff that's hard to read in here, so definitely check the trigger warnings. But like the way that this story is put together, the way that you can connect with the characters, the way that I love a mother-daughter reunification redemption story. I be living through these books sometimes. The way I love a redemption arc between a mother and daughter, and that's what this is. Essentially, you have the main character and her mom. Her mom's name's Dumpling. She's a good character, you know. Anyways, you got the main character and her mom. They're taking a crossroad country trip. Crossroad country trip. They're taking a cross-country road trip. And throughout this road trip, the daughter, Sherry, is like trying to talk to her mom and learn about her family's history because she wants to write a book. So Sherry is this middle child who is always looking for herself. She's trying to find her purpose. She's trying to find who she is, really trying to like feel at home somewhere. She knows her home isn't her hometown. It's not the home she grew up in. So she's always like in search of home, you know, like within herself and externally. And she don't have the best relationship with her mom. You know, she always kind of beat to her own drum, and just her and her mom just like didn't see eye to eye. They clashed a lot. And so during this road trip, Sherry is trying to talk to her mom, Dumpling, who is hilarious as a character, but she's trying to talk to her mom and learn more about her family because she really wants to write a book. And so you have like these dual timelines, almost a story within a story, because she's writing the book based on what her mom says. And you kind of see where those two storylines go. Throughout the story, the good part is you can see over time, over this road trip to Georgia, like just how much they began to understand each other. Her mom, who didn't really know her that well, kind of got to see more about who she was based on friends that she had, places that they met, conversations that they had in this car, where they really got to spend time together alone. She got to understand her mom more based on the stories of her family's lineage. You know what I mean? Like stuff that her mom said. She got to understand why her mama did some of the stuff she did, and just get a better idea of who her mom was before she was her mama, you know, who her ancestors were at the time, and how it's all intertwined. The story ends, again, it's some hard stuff that goes on in this book, but it ends on like a note of hope. You know, you kind of feel like Dumpling is going to be, you know, she's going to be okay. She's healing. Their relationship healing is in a process of healing. And it was just so good to see. Like, I'm not going to say their relationship was totally broken, but it was fractured. It was fractured. And throughout this, you just see as they get to know each other more, they grow closer. And it's just beautiful to see, with the backdrop of a terrible, horrible, horrific story of the past being told. But Nowhere Is a Place, when the title makes sense based on what's in these pages, I was so like, this was good. This was good. Very good. Very good. Next. Next we have The Hobbit, okay, by J.R.R. Tolkien. My kid actually picked this for me to read. After this, a few books down the line, I'm going to read Lord of the Rings. But I did read The Hobbit first, which is the prequel to Lord of the Rings. And when I first started reading it, I think, let me see, I have it marked. Page 3. Page 3, I was like, this is going to take a minute for me to get into this. I can see it already. I was very doubtful and skeptical at page 3. I was telling my husband, like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't think I'm going to make it. Mind you, it was only 3 pages. So, yes, I was being dramatic. But I really didn't think I was going to make it. By page 12, at 3, I was skeptical. Okay, 3, skeptical. 12, I was flipping them pages. I was in it. Okay, I was feeling it. I was in it. I felt like at that time I was immersed into the setting of this book, which is Middle Earth. I'm sure many of y'all have read this book, if not watched the movies. I haven't watched the movies yet. I'm going to, but I just haven't. But the book, I was in that world, okay? I love an underdog story. I love when a little guy wins. I love when an ordinary person becomes a hero because they got to do it. They look, they had to step up to the plate because that's what the occasion called for. And they did what they had to do for their people. That's what I like about this. I love that. I love that. And it was so it was so fun to read once I got to page, once I got in there a little bit. It was fun to read. And it didn't even take that long. It felt like it took that long. Again, I was skeptical in the first couple pages. After that, I was like, yeah, okay, Tolkien. I see why people think this is the best thing smoking as far as fantasy goes. This was good. Okay, I'm hoping the movies do it justice. This was good. This got me excited, actually, to read Lord of the Rings, which I wasn't that excited to read before this. But after this, I was like, yeah, okay, Bilbo. This was good. Okay, last one I'm going to talk about today. Oh, it's a classic, y'all. It's a classic. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I was so glad to read this. I started to do a separate video on this, and I think I still might, where I'm going to talk about this with in comparison and contrast to Stoner. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that probably after this video. But anyways, this book, it was so worth it. This was like a calm, like chaotic story. It was calm, but there was stuff happening that was like heavy hitting, but the book itself very slow paced, very it's very like it's almost like life. That's kind of how I look at this book. It kind of like the book Stoner by John Williams. It's kind of like how life goes. Like most days are ordinary for you, and then there's things that happen that's like significant, but it's still like your life. So it's like it takes the form of like how life is. Very much mirrors your daily life, and very much just gives like, it takes the ordinary stories of like what's happening at that time, and it finds so much like purpose in it, and beauty and pain in the ordinary. Like this little girl, the main character is Francie, and it follows her and her family. Francie is growing up in Brooklyn, parents to immigrants, and they living in poverty, you know, like they scraping through. This is the time leading up into World War One, and she has a brother, mom and daddy, and they poor. Okay, you got the dad he got his own issues, but he's like her parents, again, is like real life. Her parents are not good or bad. They're very much like, they like people. Like they have duality. They have negative traits. They have positive traits, and they think they try their best. Like sometimes it don't look that way. Sometimes it does. Like, and it's just, it reminds me of like real life. And then I did see, when I was reading this, I said, dang, like I feel like this could be a memoir. Same way I felt when I read Stoner, and this was a memoir. Like the author Betty Smith, this was her memoir, and then her publisher or editor or manager, whoever. Let me get this back. Hold on. Okay, here we go. There is no doubt that this is an autobiographical story. Originally written as a memoir, it was reconfigured as fiction at the request of an editor at its publishing house. Smith herself describing the deluge of reader letters that accompanied both the initial publication and tree. Okay, yeah. So it felt like that. Like when you read it, well, when I read it, it felt like, yeah, this could be a memoir. You know what I mean? It was, every character was so real that you felt like this is a memoir. You know, you got Neely, you got Francie, you got her mama, her daddy, her grandma, you got her aunt, Sissy, you got all these people. Shoot, the man down at the store, not the pawn shop, but something like a pawn shop. Just everybody, like her teachers and what they said and what they did. I just felt like this was really well done. I will do a video like about this and Stoner too, because I just feel like they both kind of gave me that same feel. But yeah, anyways, this was really good. A coming of age story, but it's so much more than a coming of age story. Like, you gotta know what you get yourself into though. It is slow paced, but you literally are invested in these characters. Like when I put on Instagram and I was reading this, I had a lot for me. I had a lot of people by my quantity that came into my inbox and was like, this is one of my favorite books of all time. And this was before I started reading it. I kind of put up like I'm about to start reading this. And y'all, it feels like, and then it ends with like this idea that everything came full circle. It's such it's got hardships in it, but it's such a satisfying book to read. Not because it's all happy-go-lucky, but because it seems so real. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's that. This was good, y'all. Read this if you haven't read it. But yeah, that's it. Just those 5 books for today. Y'all have to check back for a more in-depth review of this book, and me sprinkling in like some stuff that popped up in my head about Stoner when I was reading it. But that's neither here nor there. Thank y'all for checking in for the video. I'm gonna see you on the next one.